you know? I've seen people act like that in pictures. What do they call them? Zombies or something?
Zombie.
What's a zombie?
Just what is a zombie?
Well, a zombie, there's, Mr. Bill is... The living dead.
They are the living dead.
Get the zombies.
He's a zombie. Because a zombie has no will of his own.
It's an army of zombies no armies could stand.
What is wrong? What is wrong?
Welcome to Zombie Strains, the podcast where we watch all the zombie movies. I'm John.
I'm Andy.
I'm Brad.
Hi, producer Brad. Good to hear your voice. It's we're deep into the 1950s, and we're watching a movie called Scared Stiff, starring Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. And I was hoping that this would be another exciting discovery of lost comic legends like Abbott and Costello, and I don't remember the last time I was that wrong about something. So, yeah,
you're really tipping our hand here at the outset.
Yeah,
John.
I'm sorry. This is from 1953. They're both very young. It's in black and white, and I it was a bit of a struggle. Let's just be honest. Let's do a mental health check-in. Is everybody okay? Let's start there. Is everybody ready to continue? Okay. All right.
I need to warn you, one of the audio clips I've picked out is of Jerry Lewis just doing his voice for about 20 seconds. So I guess my challenge to you, John, is do you think you could do the rest of this episode in the voice that Jerry Lewis uses in the movie?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I could.
Christopher Walken. Can he do Jerry Lewis?
No, you're right. That was Christopher Walken.
You weren't screaming. There wasn't enough screaming.
Yeah, pretty lady. Why is my Jerry Lewis sound like Christopher Walken? Whew. Well, we've introduced the movie. Do you want to give any trigger warnings aside from Jerry Lewis being insufferable before we get into the meat of this?
Sure. So this movie, I think the main thing that stood out to me was what I think I would call it a pretty disrespectful portrayal, I guess, of Hispanic or Cuban culture in some of the scenes. There is another issue related to Jerry Lewis's performance that I wouldn't call, like a content warning exactly, but it did affect my enjoyment of the film. So if you can be patient, we'll get to that in just a minute once we start discussing the film. Other than that, pretty innocuous, as far as content goes.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, producer Brad, give us the straight dope on this film.
Scared Stiff opened on April 17th, 1953. Some of the big films from 1953 are From Here to Eternity, Roman Holiday, Peter Pan, House of Wax, and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. The big horror movie of 1953 was House of Wax, starring Vincent Price. Other horror films include Invaders from Mars, It Came from Outer Space, and White Witch Doctor. Several of the horror films were released in 3D, so this is a time when 3D movies are starting to show up.
Oh, interesting.
Why couldn't that Vincent Price movie have had zombies in it? That's my question.
That's a good question. Is he in a zombie film?
Is that a movie? Was there a Paris Hilton remake of that movie?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Carry on. Sorry, Brad.
That's right. Scared Stiff is the fourth adaptation of the 1909 play The Ghostbreaker, written by Paul Dickey and Charles Goddard. Dickey, by the way, played football at the University of Michigan for Fielding H. Yost.
I didn't know that.
He ended up dropping out because he got sick, and he went off to become an actor and then a playwright. The plot of the play has many of the same beats as both the 1940 The Ghostbreakers and Scared Stiff. For example, all three start with the leading man hiding from the police in the hotel room and escaping in a steamer trunk. The play is set at a castle in Spain with hidden treasures, secret rooms, and a villain hiding in a suit of armor. Dickey and Goddard sold the play to Broadway producer Henry B. Harris, who ended up dying on the Titanic, having never produced it.
Why did we not get this factoid during the Ghostbreakers? That's absolutely brilliant.
I guess I didn't realize how important this film was going to be in zombie lore. I'm still trying to figure out why it's important, but we'll talk.
Yeah.
It was finally produced on Broadway on March 3rd, 1913, and it ran for 10 weeks. The first film was a silent film from 1914 called The Ghostbreaker and starred H.B. Warner, who was the original star of the play. The second adaptation was in 1922 and is also called The Ghostbreaker. We watched the third adaptation, The Ghostbreakers, which was released in 1940 and starred Bob Hope and Paulette Goddard. Now, George Marshall directed both the 1940 and 1953 versions of this movie, which led me to research how many directors have remade their own film.
Interesting.
And it turns out it isn't that uncommon. There are quite a few. And I think I found a couple of reasons for this. So I'll share what I found. Many directors make a student film or low-budget film that attracts interest and then gets financing to make a bigger version. For example, George Lucas in THX 1138 started as a student film and then was made into a theatrical film. And then Sam Raimi did a cheap Evil Dead and got money to make a bigger budget version that he called Evil Dead 2.
Both of which I've seen, by the way, and love them both, but carry on.
Did you see the student version of THX?
No, I was talking about the Evil Dead.
We'll do student film podcast later. Some directors feel contemporary audiences need to hear their message of the original film, and they remake it. Cecil B. DeMille made both the 1923 and 1956 versions of the Ten Commandments for this reason. And we watched the 1919 silent film J'accuse by Abel Gance, which was about World War I, and he remade it in 1938 in response to another world war.
That's right.
Another reason these remakes happen is American studios love a foreign film and hire the original director to make an English language version.
Yep.
Francis Weber directed the French film The Fugitives and the American remake Three Fugitives with Nick Nolte and Martin Short. George Sluizer directed the 1988 Dutch film The Vanishing and the 1993 American version starring Jeff Bridges and Kiefer Sutherland.
You know what? I remember watching the Dutch version and thinking it was great.
I remember watching the American.
All right.
And knowing there was another one out there.
I don't remember watching either. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Takashi Shimizu directed the 2002 Japanese film The Grudge and the American version with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now, successful and powerful directors can remake an earlier film to improve upon the original. Alfred Hitchcock remade The Man Who Knew Too Much once in 1934 and again in 1956. In an interview with Francois Truffaut, Hitchcock is quoted, "Let's say the first version is the work of a talented amateur and the second was made by a professional."
And John, you're always talking about how George Lucas really perfected Star Wars with the with those remastered versions, right? I mean, you won't shut up.
Yeah, I can't stop talking about my love of the 1990s CGI in the...
Wouldn't it be nice if he actually just remade it as opposed to tinkering with the original?
Yes, actually.
I mean, it does raise some interesting questions, I think. Brad, did you see this trend like taper off? Because I guess you mentioned The Grudge, that was the 90s. So that's pretty recent, but this doesn't feel like something I've seen too much in my life.
Well, another example is Damien Chazelle Whiplash. That started as a short film. The short film was a scene, and that scene was reshot and is part of the film that he later made.
Oh, interesting.
So that's in the last 15 years. So it does still happen.
Interesting. What is weird about this one is it feels like such a beat for beat remake of the Ghostbreakers. There's some scenes and lines that are literally identical that I found, and to the disservice of this movie, because like, at one point they find a voodoo token Awanga, a death Awanga in her stateroom, just like in the Ghostbreakers. And she says, but not that one. And like her delivery is weaker than the original delivery, and it just jumped right out of me. But anyway.
And not just dialogue, though. I mean, even some of the ways they had the actors move around, like the scene where she's trying to hide his scarf or the tie or something. I mean, she is just mimicking the movements that Paulette Goddard did. That was just very interesting to me. Like there was no reinterpretation of scenes.
And I feel like the scene, well, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but I feel like the scene in the castle at the end was literally the same set. So.
And what you're talking about is, I think Scared Stiff falls under another category of remakes, which is a sturdy plot that can easily be reused and updated, and the original director is still working and available. And An Affair to Remember is another example. Leo McCarey directed it in 1939 and again in 1957, and they used the exact same script.
Interesting.
Just a new cast.
Are you saying that Ghostbreakers didn't have a message so powerful and important for the world to hear that they just the filmmakers needed to get it out again to a new generation?
Yeah, you didn't name the other reason people do this, which is money. Like a successful film could be remade as another successful film.
But I think bringing the director in is same director is the catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So Scared Stiff stars Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. They debuted as a comedy duo in nightclubs in 1946. And in Scared Stiff, you can see an example of their act when Dean is singing and Jerry plays the clumsy busboy.
Yes.
They appeared in 17 movies. This is their 9th. In 1952, they signed a new contract that paid them $1 million a year and required only one film a year, which was on the high end at the time.
That's crazy for 1950s.
That is a great deal today.
But
yeah.
The language of what I found is it says they were paid. So I'm assuming that they split that money.
Oh, interesting.
That it's not $1 million per.
I'd still take it. I mean, just to be honest.
Yes. Now, their partnership was a short run. It started in their films. It was a short run of films. They started in 1949 and ended in 1956 when the comedy duo broke up.
Fine by me. Sorry.
Well, both went solo. Martin found success as both a nightclub entertainer, recording artist, and actor of film and TV. Lewis also released successful albums but became a massive film star. In 1959, he signed one of the richest film contracts of the time, worth $10 million over 7 years. And he's also well known for his work with the Muscular Dystrophy Telethon, which my wife worked on.
I was going to say, I thought you worked on that one, but you worked on a different telethon.
I worked on the John Ritter Telethon for cerebral palsy. And because of our work in telethon, our mutual friend Javi said, Brad, this is Janet. She works on the Jerry Lewis Telethon. Janet, this is Brad. He works on the John Ritter Telethon. And he walked away. And that's how we were introduced.
Nice.
Aww.
That's amazing.
Carmen Miranda plays Carmelita, playing a version of herself, providing a few song and dance scenes in the movie. This was her last film as she died shortly after.
Yeah, I read that at the age of 46 of a heart attack, which is terrible. And just to comment here, like Carmen Miranda was kind of credited in a lot of ways with bringing sort of Latin culture to the United States in terms of making it popular. If you can't picture her, imagine somebody in sort of a wrap dress with like a bowl of fruit on their head. That's Carmen Miranda. And I think some would argue that like you don't get Desi Arnaz without Carmen Miranda. But we can talk about that more as we go through.
George Dolans played Mr. Cortega. You recognize the name Dolans?
I do. Where do I recognize it from?
His son is Mickey Dolans of the band and TV show The Monkees.
Monkees, the Prefab Four.
And Edith Head was the costume designer. She also worked on the Ghostbreakers. And as we mentioned in that episode, she is one of the all-time greats in the costume world. And as usual, reliable box office numbers aren't available for this era, but we can safely assume it did well considering they were at their peak and they made 7 more movies together afterwards.
All right. Well, Andy, I think we've stalled long enough. Are you ready?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the historical context into which this film was dumped?
Let's do that. So this is 1953, and it's a little bit of an outlier. So we released our episode in the 1950s where we try to cover sort of broad historical context of the 1950s. But to be honest, there's a lot of things here we didn't talk about in that episode. So one thing is it's still the space age, like manned spaceflight is close to becoming a reality. In this year, the very first manned plane broke Mach 2, which is still a very fast speed for a manned aircraft. And a big thing here is this is set in Cuba. Right at the time, Batista, who led Cuba before Fidel Castro, was in power. He seized it in a coup the year before, and then shortly after this film, Fidel Castro overthrew him and began, well, he didn't overthrow him then, but he
started his revolt. Yeah.
He started his revolutions. And at the time, it was considered a hot tourist spot. And what's interesting is for example, if we, just to tie this back to film history, in The Godfather Part 2, there's a sort of early plot where the brothers are opening casinos in Cuba, and then at some point everybody has to flee because of Castro overthrowing the government. But it was a huge celebrity hangout and night spot and just a place to go. It was like Florida on steroids. So I find that all interesting here. It wasn't communist yet, which I think is a big point because we made a lot of hay about communism in that 1950s episode.
It is interesting to I don't think this is a film that has a lot of connection to the zeitgeist, but it is interesting just to think about how pretty much the exact same film lands differently in 1940 opposed to 1953. This probably isn't really a movie where we can glean a lot about that, but maybe we'll get some more remakes like this that might be a little bit more open to, just observing how their context changes the way you view them.
Yeah, looking at our list, we're looking forward to a lot of aliens and rocket ships and atomic power and stuff, and none of that is in this movie.
All right, thanks for that historical background, John. Before we start talking about the film proper, let's take a quick look again at the poster for it. John, could you describe for us the poster for Scared Stiff?
It's actually not bad. So it's an illustrated poster, and what it features is it's got a picture at the top of young-looking Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, and they're sort of screaming in fear. They're sort of lit from beneath. And then there's a picture of Carmen Miranda and Elizabeth Scott as Mary. They're pictured sort of at the bottom. And it has a picture of a ghost, and the ghost's arms are spread. It's an illustrated ghost, and inside of its arms are all the credits.
It promises a pretty good time, I would say.
It promises that.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right in. John, do you want to give us a sort of the 30-second overview of this movie? And let's remind our viewers this is a remake of The Ghost Breakers. And it's a pretty close remake, as Brad was mentioning earlier. So why don't you give us the rundown, and then as we go through, we'll kind of decide how much detail we do or don't want to get into with some of the plot
absolutely.
points.
So it is a beat-for-beat remake, except for the difference is, let me just give the plot, and then we can talk about the differences as we go. All right, so here's the 60-second plot summary, and then we can get into some of the weird details. It is a beat-for-beat remake of The Ghost Breakers. What's different here is, instead of the valet, Alex, we have Myron, who's played by Jerry Lewis. In any case, Dean Martin, Larry, and Myron, Jerry Lewis, are best friends. They work at the same club, and they get into trouble with a gangster, much like in The Ghost Breakers. They go to the gangster's hotel to try to get out of trouble and accidentally fall into the plot where Mary has inherited a castle on an island called Lost Island, which is near Cuba. She's going to move there and take possession of it, but people are trying to talk her out of it or buy it from her. Hijinks ensue. Dean Martin ends up trapped on the steamship headed to Cuba because he gets locked in a trunk. They go to Cuba. They go to the Lost Island. They uncover a plot which was designed to scare them away, Scooby-Doo style, because there's valuable gold on the island. And then they crack the plot. The end. Did I miss any important plot points?
That was perfect. You even included some unimportant ones. So, yeah, very thorough.
I have one question. You said hijinks ensue. You did not say hilarious hijinks.
I sure didn't. Very purposefully, I did not say hilarious hijinks. So, yeah, let me just be clear.
Oh my.
Okay, let's get into it. We've been teasing this movie, and I just really want to, let's just start doing it.
Yes. Okay, so I think we can not spend too much time on this whole nightclub setup scene. So, listeners,
I do want to say one thing, though. Can I say one thing as we get started?
Please.
You posted in our Discord as we were watching this. You said, "Man spills spaghetti all over the place and on customers. It's the least funny thing I've ever seen." So right out of the gate,
that, yes.
you are exhausted by this film. I want to say, I got to the spaghetti scene and I had a couple of good laughs early on, pratfalls and stuff, but then I was exhausted. So I think my exhaustion kicked in about 3 minutes after yours.
Yes, well, that's the centerpiece of this entire movie is Jerry Lewis's performance.
Yes.
And so your enjoyment of this movie will depend entirely on A, how funny you find this type of comedy, and B, just how much of it can you take, because it's just relentless.
Yeah.
And exhausting is a good word. It's not like it's never funny. It's just a lot of it, and it's a really abrasive type of humor. So
it is, and he doesn't have the variety of moods and levels that like Lou Costello has, right? He seems to have one level, which is 11, and he's doing it all the time.
So let's start there. John, would you mind describing Larry and Myron? And these are our two protagonists, and they are also our straight man, funny man comic duo. Could you describe each of the two of them briefly? And then let's just talk, what is the style of humor that this movie is going for?
So I want to say a few things. Can I first just talk about Dean Martin for just a second? So as a Gen Xer, I remember Dean Martin from the 70s as like a bloated, leathery skinned, over tan, chain smoking, kind of disaster. And it was really interesting to see him here in 1953. Slim, young, his voice is literally beautiful when he sings in the numbers here. And I don't think he smokes a cigarette in any scene in the movie. It's like a different person from the one I grew up watching. Does this make any sense to you? It's like young Elvis, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's Jerry Lewis like in contrast to that?
So Dean Martin is the suave debonair. He sings the songs. He always looks good in a suit. And his friend, Jerry Lewis, named Myron, is like a man-child. Actually, like, here's the comparison I'll make. It's like of Mice and Men, where Dean Martin is George and Jerry Lewis is Lenny. Like, clearly Dean has to take care of Lenny because he's always getting himself take care of Myron because he's always getting himself in trouble, and he's always just doing foolish things, and he acts like a child. He's talking in a baby voice, and then he's exploding in terror all the time, and he's running around and flopping around everywhere. Like, I don't know how you feel about that description, but that's what leapt to my mind.
No, so this is what I wanted to talk about when we were talking about the content warnings. There's something about his performance that it actively repelled me in this movie's opening stages, and I guess I kind of warmed to it as it went on. I'll just say this. I'm glad you mentioned of Mice and Men and the word man-child, because when you are doing this sort of like doofus comic character,
right,
there is a line between being like a thoughtless, clumsy oaf who doesn't do anything right, that's fine and funny to laugh at. Mm-hmm. There is also a line you can drift to where it starts to feel like you are being asked to laugh at a person like with mental disabilities. Does that make sense? And
it does.
The opening couple of minutes, Jerry Lewis's like performance of this character Myron, I found it upsetting. It just really seemed like I was being asked to like laugh at the antics of a disabled person.
Yeah.
I felt really uncomfortable.
I agree.
It was only as the movie went on and I realized a little bit more like what kind of a routine he was doing. But my initial reaction was so negative. I had a very hard time getting to a point where I could enjoy this film. What do you think about all that?
I agree. And I hate to do this because it's an unfair comparison. Now, I think Jerry Lewis, once he got older and was doing things like The Nutty Professor, sort of invested in having a little bit of range and diversity in his performances, but we're not there yet in 1953. He's like early Jim Carrey, where there's no subtlety at all. It's just in your face all the time. And like I said, it's exhausting. But let's compare him to Lou Costello, who in the last film we saw them in 1948 is a total pro. Producer Brad commented that he was like a child in a man's body. But sometimes he acted like an adult, right? And would become childish when scared or something.
And he would look at the camera to let you know that he knew what we were thinking.
Exactly.
Too, that he was in on it.
And Jerry Lewis literally feels like he's playing somebody who is disabled and making fun of them. Like he's emotionally a 12-year-old. He's physically unable to move through a room without collapsing everything in it. Like, yeah, it was really awkward to my modern eyes. I'll be honest.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that I did get over it as the film went on, because I don't think that's what he was going for, but it sure is how it reads today. Yeah.
Well, one question I have is, this film is a pre-existing script, as we talked about. Abbott and Costello, most of their stuff was original. They did bring their own bits into it. As we saw, they brought one of the Martin Lewis bits into this, but for the most part, they're following a script that's decades old. And I wonder if they're not able, and I didn't tell you this, Norman Fell is one of the guys brought in to write on this. He did additional dialogue. I assume he was doing some humor. but I wonder if this is not tailored enough for them.
I don't know. It's nothing like the Ghostbreakers humor. Like you described that, Andy, at the time as patter, right? Like, let's fire off 20 jokes in a minute and 3 of them will land and we'll chuckle and smile. That's not that's not what this movie's doing at all.
In a minute, I want us to, well, let's just, let's hear a clip of it now.
Yeah.
This is from like midway through the movie. It's just a short scene where you can hear Jerry Lewis doing his routine. So listeners, get ready for a subtle, understated wit here.
Brace yourselves, people.
The man said he won't wait too long. Here we go. Right up there, Larry boy. Come on, what do you say? The man, Larry, the man's ready. We'll be right down, pal. Larry, come on, let's go. The man's not gonna wait too long. Come on. Pilot boat leaving. Here we go.
Myron.
Does our use of the word exhausting now make sense to everybody who's listening?
So listeners, this really is a film. We are taking one for the team here.
Yeah.
If you found that enjoyable, I want you to just multiply that 20 seconds by
2 hours.
Yes.
This movie was like 7 hours.
Yes. So I know we need to get rolling and actually talking about the film, but I wanted to make one last comment about Jerry Lewis's performance. So I found that audio clip we just did exhausting to listen to. There is one thing that when his humor worked, it was, in my opinion, when he has an incredible manic physical presence. He's always flailing around and contorting himself around and making goofy faces. And most of that didn't really land for me, but the bits of comedy that did land were the ones when it was about his physical presence. And he really is, everybody else is just moving in slow motion compared to this guy.
Yeah.
And there is a certain enjoyment to it, I would say.
I'm not going to go that far, but I hear what you're saying. How about that?
Okay. All right. Well, we've kind of beaten that horse, I think. So let's move on to the story. I'm just going to sum up this opening sequence, John, and then give you a chance to point out anything interesting I missed. Like the Ghostbreakers, we do not get to the quote zombie part until maybe 20 minutes before the end, the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Right.
So I don't know how much of this we want to do, but you mentioned earlier, I don't know if we called it out specifically, but this is a musical, or at least a part musical.
It is a musical, and we didn't mention that. It's not a musical in the same sense that like Oklahoma is a musical, where there are songs that the characters sing about their inner lives or that advance the plot. What it is, it's a comedy that has some set piece songs like you would see in a nightclub. So, Carmen Miranda's character, Carmelita, or Larry, played by Dean Martin, will do a song in a set song in a club that is entertaining. And only one time is there a song that is like about the plot of the film. So I wouldn't say it's strictly musical, but it's a movie that features musical numbers. How about that?
This feels like a semi-first for us. This is the first movie we've watched that had elements of a musical.
I agree.
Okay. So I just wanted to note that. So yeah, the two of them get in trouble with the crime lord that owns the nightclub where they work. In Ghostbreakers, I mean, the beats are similar to Ghostbreakers. In Ghostbreakers, the crime lord got mad because the protagonist was a radio host who was spreading gossip or negative news about the crime lord. In this one, the crime lord gets mad at them because the crime lord's girlfriend, who is one of the dancing girls at the club,
Rosie,
basically flirts with all of the employees. And then when the crime lord finds out, he executes the employee that she was flirting with. I think this is unsustainable, and he needs to look at the bigger, the real problem here. But I won't judge.
And this is our inciting incident, right? The waiter who is flirting with Rosie gets carried off by gangsters in the middle of the shift, and Myron, played by Jerry Lewis, has to fill in as a waiter, and that's when the disaster begins.
Yeah, so that's our first, glimpse at how this movie is going to be happens. There's an extended scene. Myron, who doesn't know anything about being a waiter, is pressed into filling in for the waiter who has been called off by the crime boss. he's got a big, enormous plate of spaghetti, which he throws all over the room and all over the patrons. And it ends with a pretty interminable song routine with the girlfriend. And yeah, I don't think we need to go into it.
We don't need to go into it. It's
But
an
the long and the
opportunity
short
for
of it
Dean
is-
Martin to punch Jerry Lewis and have it be funny.
Yes. The long and the short of it is Myron and Larry both wind up over in the hotel where the crime lord is set up. And there's some other stuff that I'll circle back to here, but through a series of shenanigans, Larry believes that he has shot and killed one of the crime lord's minions.
Yeah, if you remember Ghostbreakers, it's the same thing. He thinks he's in the hotel, he's going to talk to the gangster, and he accidentally shoots someone. He doesn't think he shoots one of the crime lord's minions. Just like in Ghostbreakers, he thinks he shoots Ramon, who is trying to give the truth of the plot to Mary, who has inherited the island.
So the other person at this hotel is Mary, who is the other romantic lead here, and she is on her way to Cuba to collect her inheritance of this castle on Lost Island. And yeah, John, you were not exaggerating when you said it was like a beat by beat remake of Ghostbreakers, because they use like the same jokes.
The same joke. She says, "Nice night for a murder," to the lights go out in the hotel, and she says, "Nice night for a murder," to a hitman who says, "Who told you about that?" It's the same joke. But having seen Paulette Goddard do it, the woman who plays, it's Elizabeth. Sorry, Elizabeth, who plays Mary in this movie, is not bad, but Paulette Goddard is just better, and it shows whenever she's sort of emulating those same lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've singled out Paulette Goddard as one of my favorite hero protagonists. From season 1, and so I was interested to see how this actress would pick up that role. And she, like you said, she does fine. But I do think that Paulette Goddard's performance is stronger.
Can I hit you with a weird comparison? This is mostly for producer Brad. She looked like somebody. It was making me crazy. You know who she reminded me of? I think it's Barbara Bach from Space 1999.
Bain. Barbara Bain.
Barbara Bain from Space 1999. Barbara Bach was a Bond girl? Never mind.
Bach was a Bond girl. Catherine Bach is Daisy
Right.
Dukes.
Okay. Yes. No.
And we made it to the Dukes of Hazzard.
There we go. We went from Ghostbreakers to the Duke of Hazzard in 4 moves. Barbara Bain from Space 1999. Younger listeners won't know that reference, but she has those same kind of Slavic features, but those compelling large eyes and short blonde hair. I don't know. That's who she reminded me.
She's a good protagonist. She's fine. So like in Ghostbreakers, Larry escapes. Both the police and the mob are now looking for him.
Yes,
because they believe he's killed a man. Mary has been getting pressured by her family executor or lawyer or whatever to not visit the island and to sell it to an unnamed person who wants to buy it. So he's trying to warn her off, and the movie floats him. I think Ghostbreakers did this too, as the villain through the whole movie until you get to the very end where it turns out he actually is legitimately trying to protect her. The villain is somewhat different. So that's a little bit of a twist, I guess. But
yes.
Let's hear him cautioning Mary away from the castle.
Now I can finish my packing.
Miss Carroll, I urge you to accept the offer I've been authorized to make. Now, $50,000 is quite a bit of money.
It's such a strange offer. The place is haunted, full of bats, and yet somebody wants it $50,000 worth. Who's making the offer, Mr. Cortega?
I'm sorry, I can't tell you that.
All right, so I like the way her character is written. She's a good protagonist. So Larry, to escape the police and the mob, again comes into her forces his way into her hotel room and then hides there. And he hides in her steamer trunk that she's been packing because she's leaving for Cuba the next day. And a lot of hijinks ensue, I guess. But the scene ends with the trunk.
Hilarious hijinks?
No.
Still no.
Listeners, you are free to watch this film and then write us and let us know how hilarious you found the hijinks.
One of the things that he says here, which is more, in a lot of ways, this movie is more explicit than the Ghostbreakers and just more direct, because he says there are no human being who tried to stay the night has ever lived to see the sunrise in this castle, which raises the stakes a little bit.
And while this
Do you want to talk about Myron having a conversation with himself in the mirror?
Well, I think that is perhaps his most memorable comic routine in the movie.
Okay. Yep.
There is an extended sequence where Myron is trying to talk himself to pump himself up to go in and save his friend Larry from the mobsters. To do this, he sees himself in the mirror in a hallway in the hotel, and then he has a conversation with himself.
Where he does a bunch of different voices. I have several notes about this speech, and
it goes on for like 3 hours.
Yeah, it's rough.
And it does, like, I will say, it does feature the whole extent of his routine, because he's doing the voices, and he's doing a lot of physical comedy and faces and contorting around. So, like,
it's the mugging
that
kills me.
Like,
it's the mugging, his face mugging all the time.
It's not all bad. It's too much, and the camera just sits there forever, and the bit just goes on and on. But it is a good, like, if you want to see his performance in Microcosm, I think that scene is basically it. So
I have 2 notes on this scene. So first of all, his gangster voice. You know how we talked about how, like, the Ghostbreakers influenced Scooby-Doo in the future?
Yeah.
His gangster voice. This is another one for my Gen X homies out there. His gangster voice sounds exactly like Peter Brady singing pork chops and applesauce in that episode of the Brady Bunch. So yes, it's ridiculous. And then I had another note here. Have you ever heard of the Phantom Edit, Andy? It's an edit of the Phantom Menace. Where somebody has taken out basically Jar Jar Binks and made it a more serious movie about I wanted the Lewis edit for this at this point. I was ready for a version of this movie without Jerry Lewis in it, and by this point, I'm sorry. He's killing me. So yeah.
And it's just endless. Like when we talk about things happening that sound like normal plot things, you just have to remember that Jerry Lewis is flailing around and screaming in the background of every single scene.
Yeah, having said that, there are a couple of nice bits here. There's one great shot where one of the gangsters is sort of bearing down on Larry, and you cut to Larry looking at so the shot is the camera moving towards Larry as he is scared of this gangster from the gangster's perspective. And it was almost like a handheld shot zooming in on Larry. Like, it was surprisingly effective and strangely like a strangely creative shot in the middle of this film. So
I am no cinematography or filming expert, but I actually did notice a couple of times when the camera work was, it seemed like slightly above average.
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on. So that's the first act of this film. It ends with them all. So Larry's in the trunk. It gets taken over to the boat. There is a truly endless scene on the dockyard where a drunk, like in Ghostbreakers, a drunk person, it's too dumb to describe. It just goes forever. My only note is, at what point, so there's a drunk person in this scene, and at what point do drunk people stop being portrayed this way? You know, like, it's this very old timey, like this drunk guy, like a lot of drunk people in these movies. It's like, he's happy, he's slurring his words, he's I mean, in my personal experience with drunk people, I find them insufferable to be around.
Yes.
But this is like, I don't know. We stopped portraying drunkenness in film this way at some point.
Yes, this is just a comedy, is another comedy slapstick bit. My only note here is, by the time we head to Cuba and made it to Cuba, I made a note. This took longer than it did in Ghostbreakers, which is really saying something. Yeah.
I have the exact same note. And then this scene on the boat goes so long.
But there is one great thing on the boat that I think we have to talk about.
Well, I can't even think about what that was, but please, as soon as we get to it, jump out and say.
Okay.
So So they're on the boat to Cuba. There's just a succession of encounters and conversations.
Yeah, Mary gets a threatening note saying death awaits you on Lost Island. Yep.
Someone makes an attempt to kill her by dropping a plant on her. So the conversations she has is kind of reinforce what we already know. She's under pressure to sell. She meets a friend of hers named, is it Toby?
Tony. It's Tony.
Tony. Who we will later learn is the real villain here, but he's
just
portrayed,
like in Ghostbreakers.
Yep, he's portrayed here as a good friend. And in one of the conversations with, I think, the executor, we do get our first mention of the word zombie, and we hear a little bit more about what type of zombie this film might have. So, producer Brad, why don't you run that audio clip 4?
Hey, Mary, what's a zombie? A what?
Who said anything about a zombie?
Oh, I always thought it was a drink. But that fella Cortega, he says it's an old dead guy over on the island, and he walks like this. Oh, Larry.
He was telling the truth.
He was?
It's voodooism, and not very pleasant. You see, when a man dies and is buried, some voodoo priests seem to have the power to bring him back to life. Fact is, there's an old woman living on Lost Island who has a zombie son.
2 mates.
Oh, shut up.
How horrible.
It's worse than horrible, because a zombie has no will of its own. Every once in a while, you see him walking about with dead eyes, blindly following orders, not knowing what they do and not caring.
Just like husbands.
So in this movie called Scared Stiff, this is, the first time we've gotten a coherent look at what might be waiting for them on this island.
Yes.
It's a pretty standard type of zombie we've heard a lot about in these films, I would say.
So standard, it sounds like the exact same words from the Ghostbreakers.
Identical, yes.
Yes. So, and around the time that we learned this about the zombie, this is when Mary finds a death wanga in her room on the boat, and it's all seeming, pretty menacing.
Yes.
We also get one other, remarkable moment, and I think this is what John has been waiting to talk about. So what is that?
Well, there's a couple things I want to talk about. So first of all, on the boat, they also somehow Larry, Dean Martin, has been hired after stowing away on the boat. He got hired to be the singer at dinner. So he follows up. So Carmen Miranda does a spicy song, followed by, which is bizarre because her sort of her I don't know what, her duet partner is a man wearing bongo drums on his hips, and he like spins around, and part of the song is her like hitting the bongo drums. It's very strange. So then Larry, Dean Martin, and Mary head out to the deck, and they're talking about Lost Island, and they're kind of falling for each other. And several notes about this. Like, I made that joke about the Lewis cut earlier, but like when there's like a few minutes here where Jerry Lewis isn't here, and I'm like, oh, like I was so relieved. But there's something I actually want to make a point. We talked in our 50s episode about sort of, the concept of the teenagers and maybe sort of a slightly looser moral strictures. And this is our first really romantic couple that's neither married nor engaged that sort of engages in a deep, passionate kiss. And I don't think we've seen that before. So this is part of that sort of 50s loosening up a little bit, which happens on this scene.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point, John.
Yeah. But the important thing here is, two things happen to Larry and Mary where they're out on the deck. The first one is somebody tries to kill Mary by dropping a bucket of sand on her, just like in the Ghostbreakers. But then the sort of assistant comes out to try to talk her into selling it again. Dean Martin is hiding, and he comes out and gives a similar speech to Bob Hope's on the deck, where he says he's a ghostbreaker, but that's not what Dean Martin says. What he says is,
Well, Mr. Cortega, I've heard about you. Oh, have you been in Havana before?
No, first trip.
Leisure trip?
Not exactly.
Are you interested in some tobacco plantation?
Look, I'll save you a lot of time. I'm a ghostbuster.
Like what?
Well, you've heard of trust busters and bronco busters and gang busters. Well, I'm a ghostbuster. So watch it, Buster.
I hope you still feel as comical when you come off the island. Good night, Miss Carroll.
So two things there.
Ghostbuster.
Yeah. He says Ghostbuster. That's amazing. But second thing is, it's actually kind of a clever line. And without Myron there to step all over everything, we get to see a little bit of Dean Martin's own sort of easy charm there. You know?
Yeah, so I know Dan Aykroyd cites the Ghost Breakers as an inspiration for Ghostbusters. Do you think this is where he got the phrase Ghostbusters?
He must have.
He cited this era of filmmaking, the comedy and the horror, so I would assume he saw this as well.
Yeah, maybe he just cited Ghost Breakers because it's the first one and was the inspiration, and frankly, the better movie. But the word Ghostbuster is right here in 1953. So 31 years later, we have a movie with that title.
So I noted here, it's at around at this time, the boat actually arrives at Cuba. And so my notes, excitedly, I jotted down, yes, this interminable boat sequence is done. But nope, they park off of Cuba, and then we get like 20 more minutes of conversations in the boats and one, I guess I'll say, remarkable song and dance routine.
I wrote, so there's a couple of songs here, but at one point they do a song called the Enchilada Song.
Yeah.
Where Carmen Miranda comes out and cooks enchiladas, and there's a whole thing about enchiladas. And my note here is, and let me quote this, like, I can't even. That's my note on this scene.
Yes.
So
it's forever. A centerpiece of this is that Myron dresses up as Carmen Miranda and comes out and does this very long.
Yeah, he's miming
singing,
Carmen Miranda
along to a record
which
of
skips
Carmen Miranda
and stops, and
oh my gosh,
and he's dressed garishly as Carmen Miranda with like the big fruit headdress and the giant heels, and this was another scene that felt to me like you felt early in the movie where we're making fun of a disabled person. I don't know why he thinks this is funny. It was just killing me.
Yeah. So
I guess drag was big in the 50s. Like, this is when Milton Berle would come out and just wear a dress and tell jokes. And like it's not that drag can't be funny. It can be. But like in this context, it just is so weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting that obviously they were successful. So audience liked them.
It's true.
But critics, the New York Times says that Lewis performs this impersonation of her, which they said he has done before, and they say, and it isn't good.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. You know what I'm reminded of? Also, this sort of kicks me back to Jim Carrey again. After he did Ace Ventura, Roger Ebert, the film critic, hated the first movie, and he specifically hated when he would bend over and talk with his butt. So when they meant to make the sequel, he specifically was like, Roger Ebert hated that, so make sure we include a lot more butt talking. And I feel like that's what this Carmen Miranda impression is like. How can we make this as horrible as possible? Yeah.
So they finally arrive at Lost Island, and as in Ghost Breakers, our heroes head over to explore the castle on the island in two separate groups. So Myron and Larry take a rowboat and go over to the castle. And I think even more than Ghost Breakers, it's like super haunted house horror movie. It's like the creepy jungle with lots of weird animal noises.
Yeah,
and,
I made a note about the swamp sound effects being so over the top as they're walking towards the castle. Like, goodness, nobody could sleep on this island. No wonder everybody's a zombie.
Myron and Larry go in. They spot the woman mentioned earlier. We heard the audio clip. There is a woman who lives on this island who supposedly has a zombie son. I didn't know whether to laugh or what, but they literally just see the woman like walking into her hut.
Yes.
And then they have this extended sequence where they repeatedly state that this woman is scaring them. And she's a normal looking person and she's just going into her house.
Yeah. We've taken a step backwards in zombie makeup in this movie. Like her son, her son, we'll get there in a second. He just looks like a overweight, unshaven guy with messy hair. Like,
yes,
he doesn't have any prosthetics or anything. Yeah.
So let's just talk about it now. So although Larry and Myron spend quite a bit of time bumbling around in this Scooby-Doo style haunted mansion.
Yes.
And Mary shows up separately. Were you also watching to see how her hair would survive?
As she was pulling off the swimming cap, I was like, what's it going to be, Mary? Can you pull it off exactly. Like Janet Goodard? Yeah.
So Mary arrives at the island too. And when Mary arrives, for reasons I don't understand, but like the woman goes and basically wakes up her zombie son, and then the zombie kind of chases Mary through the castle. John, you already did a little bit, but so this is our zombie. This is why we're watching this movie and this podcast.
Yes.
So John, tell us about this zombie.
He's just like, he's big. He shuffles. He makes a chain rattling sound, though I don't see any chains around his ankles.
There were.
Okay. All right.
There were cuffs there.
Yeah, he's just kind of buck-toothed. He actually looks like, he just kind of looks like a redneck with messy hair. Like he doesn't project, they sort of talked up the zombie as being like this somebody brought back to life by a voodoo priest. I don't get that vibe at all. He just seems like somebody who's drunk or tired, I
mean, it's not that I had super high expectations, but I was really shocked at how much they just didn't even try with this zombie.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a zombie. Like there's nothing about it that suggests undead or, he walks slow, I guess.
Yeah. It's weird.
Later when he gets in a fight with Myron and Larry, he's like fighting at like kind of normal speed. So, he's just like a person. Which I guess is a type of zombie I guess we have seen. There are zombies we have been told that they may even just be still alive people.
Yeah.
But it was like they didn't try at all. Like they didn't even put makeup on him to make him look creepy.
Yeah, the zombie in the first earlier version of this movie from 13 years ago was much more convincing and scary and just sort of more everything than this zombie is, for sure.
Yeah, at one point Mary, when she first sees the zombie, she just lets out this huge scream, and it's like he just looks like a person. Like
yes.
What?
Yeah.
The cuffs of his pants were tattered.
They were tattered. You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
There's that masterful costume design.
It's subtle.
There's the good costume designer, the high point of this film, I believe.
So I don't know what other details we need to get through, because this sequence from here follows all of the beats that Ghostbreakers did.
Yeah.
We do get like a special effect where they see a ghost who is translucent.
Yeah, this time, I guess one difference in Ghostbreakers, they just observe the ghost, then it goes away. This time they try to catch it, and it runs away from them. Yeah.
Or they flank it and then run towards each other predictably, and then they crash into each other.
And then they run into each other. Right.
Yeah, it's super funny. Would you describe it as really hilarious?
I would not, Andy. I think
okay. Okay. So we do get a little bit more zombie action. As in Ghostbreakers, the zombie inexplicably takes the time to climb into a suit of full plate armor.
Right.
And it does attack them. There's a lot of pratfalls and the sort. It does attack them. They fight it. And this is where I said the zombie, if you watch the fight scene, he's just fighting wrestling like a normal person.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But they imprison it, and then Mary, as in Ghostbreakers, uses the same strategy to kind of distract the zombie by dressing up as her ancestor. There's a big, beautiful painting of her ancestor hanging in the castle.
By the way, the castle, that entryway with the front door,
it has
all the way
to be
the
the
stairs,
same.
It looks like
it's identical,
inch by inch, the same as the first movie.
I can't believe they spent money to reproduce it. That seems like not something worth doing. It has to be the same.
I don't know if they would have kept the original. Maybe the first one may not have been original to that. Maybe it's a set that gets repurposed all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be used as a throne room. It's got that big dais at the landing. I don't know.
Or the director is just really comfortable with that layout and didn't want to change.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm just going to sum it up. They explore around. They solve this puzzle that involves playing specific notes on this organ that is inexplicably in the crypt.
Right.
And they find that there is a mine underneath the castle.
It's gold this time. It was silver and
gold, not silver.
It's gold.
Yep, exactly.
Upgrade.
They
upgrade.
Yep. And they find, this is where we learn that Cortega, the creepy lawyer, is not really the villain. He was, they find him dying. He's been stabbed by the real villain, who is Tony.
Yes, who we met on the boat and talked to twice.
So as in Ghostbreakers, Myron In Ghostbreakers, it was Alex, I think. But
Yes.
Myron saves the day. He is he's poking around on that organ and opening trapdoors and secret passages, and he accidentally opens a trapdoor underneath the feet of the bad guy, who plummets to his death. The day is saved. Larry and Mary decide to get that they're going to get married. It's very romantic and sweet. And then this movie ends with a sequence I didn't understand.
At
So
all.
I'm hoping one of you two did.
Well, yeah. So at the end, this little mini trap door falls open, and Jerry Lewis looks through it and screams and runs away. And then Dean Martin looks through it and screams and runs away. And then we see what's in there. And what's in there are Bob Hope and Bing Crosby with like their heads stuck through the wall. And underneath them are like these dangling skeletons. And I kind of understood why Bob Hope was there, because he was in Ghostbreakers. I don't know why Bing Crosby is there. So
Bob Hope and Bing Crosby did a series of films together, like Road to Rio, Road to Bali.
Okay.
And so they were a pair and they did a lot. And so this is just a cameo because Bob had been in the first one. And I think a
Gotcha.
better description is their heads are poking through a wall, but it's made to look like their heads are joined to the skeletons because the skeletons are missing a skull.
Yeah.
So it's their skeleton.
Yes, like their
It
skeletons.
was a truly bizarre moment. Can I say that?
I
Like,
think it
in
only
this particular
works
film.
in the
I think
cultural
it's dated.
context.
Yeah.
So the three heroes then run out and we get credits, but I want to call it one or two things. First, this was the most convincing bit of acting, was them running out of the castle, because they are like tripping over each other and like the actors are really pushing each other and stumbling over each other.
Yes.
Like sometimes in movies people are running away from like something that's about to kill them, but they appear to be moving at like a light jog or something. And this one, the actors are booking their way out of the castle
for sure.
So fast
then-
that it looked like they knocked over Mary and fell on top of her.
Yeah,
they did
yes.
knock over. That's what I was thinking. Like they completely bowl her over. And yeah, that's what I mean when I say that it was really convincing. And secondly, so this ends, I think this is our second movie that has a little bit of like fourth wall breaking at the end.
Yes.
We had one movie, maybe you guys can remind me what it was. Maybe it
was Voodoo Man.
Was it Voodoo Man, where the door swings closed and it says the end on it?
No, that was Revenge of the Zombies.
Yeah, that was Revenge of the Zombies.
Yep.
In this one, our three heroes run out of the castle, but then they turn around, poke their heads back through the door, and all shout in unison, "Well, that's the end."
Yes.
And then roll credits.
Yes.
Okay, so that is a wrap on Scared Stiff.
We made it.
We made it. Whew. Thank you for bearing this burden with us, listeners.
Yes.
Yes. So, John, we've been talking about Scared Stiff for what feels like a very long time.
Yes.
So let's move right into our wrap up. John, I'm going to go through our discussion questions.
All right.
Is there a hero party in Scared Stiff?
Yeah. We've got Martin and Lewis and Mary, the same party from Ghostbreakers. So yes.
How does the party do? Who survives and how many?
Well, they all survive. The only one who eats it is Tony the villain, who we assume dies at the bottom of a trapdoor. We never see him.
And Cortega the lawyer dies. Can I mention? I should have mentioned this earlier, but one of my favorite things in these movies is the use of the word robot. Did you notice that there's a character named Ramon in this? And did you notice that Mary pronounces his name Raymond?
No,
repeatedly.
They did the same in the Ghostbreakers.
Interesting.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was intentional.
All
Okay.
right.
I don't know what they're going for there, but okay. John, is there a zombie horde in this movie?
No, there's a very lame zombie in this movie.
How are zombies destroyed, killed, or defeated in this movie?
They're just locked in rooms.
Yep. They're just, they seem to have the strength of a regular person. You just overpower them.
Yeah, I don't know exactly why zombies are so scary quite yet.
Is the world threatened in this movie?
It is not. I feel like this, again, is just a little corner of the world where they're having their own drama. Yeah.
What kind of zombie strain are we dealing with here?
So they say pretty explicitly it's a reanimated corpse that is a reanimated living dead who was raised by a voodoo priest. So we're dealing with voodoo style reanimated zombies.
Yeah, they have no will of their own.
Correct.
And they are condemned to follow the orders they were given by their master.
Right.
Okay. Are there any new strains or zombie firsts in this movie?
I can't think of one. Can you?
The only thing I would advance as a first is maybe we could call this our first like zombie quasi musical.
I guess you're right. We'll run into more.
Yeah.
It's our first. I think it's our first movie with musical numbers in it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. At least longer than like a quick bit.
Right.
Because,
a full song.
Yeah. There's multiple set piece songs in this. They have nothing to do with the plot, but they're to entertain as if we were in a nightclub, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. There is one, I think you mentioned. You're right.
That's right. On the deck,
one conversation
Dean Martin sings about how he loves Mary. And that is sort of in context of the scene. Yes.
And actually at the very beginning of the movie, Larry and Myron, when we're first meeting them, they have a conversation in the form of a song.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's a little tenuous though. Okay. How many of your pillars are we going to find in Scared Stiff, John?
I think the answer is 0.
Okay. Well, let me run through them real quick.
Yeah.
First pillar is apocalypse. There's no such thing here.
Nope.
No contagion.
Nope.
Tough moral choices.
Not a 1, as far as I could tell. Yeah.
I mean, the only kind of Mary chooses kind of to not sell the house, and that doesn't feel like a moral choice.
No, not really.
And loved ones turning against you.
Not unless you consider Jerry Lewis's performance as an affront to all humanity. You can't consider it loved ones.
I mean, technically, Tony is friends with Mary.
Yes, I guess that's true.
But that's not. I don't.
Yeah, that's not what we're after here.
Yeah, John, would you and I survive in the zombie world of Scared Stiff?
I think so. I'd like to think so.
I don't.
If Myron can survive, we have to be able to survive, Andy.
Yeah, the most threatening thing in the film is maybe the mobsters at the beginning. This wouldn't be the first film where what would get me would be the organized crime, not any of the supernatural elements.
You know what's interesting about this is the main heavy for the mobsters is this really tall, skinny guy, and Dean Martin's suit is cut to make him look really skinny. In the Ghostbreakers and in our 1940 movies, the gangsters were these big burly guys, like Sheldon Leonard, like these sort of burly guys, and skinny is in this era. So.
The gangster's name is Shorty.
Shorty, yep.
All right, John, would you recommend this movie in general or to our specific zombie fan listeners?
No and no, because you could get everything you got from this movie from the Ghostbreakers, which, though I think we had some quibbles with, was we felt was entertaining at least. How about you?
I'd agree. And so we have a new question we're asking in season 2. John, is this a zombie movie or is it a movie with a zombie?
I think it's a movie with a zombie.
I think you're right. Yeah. And I agree with you on all that. If you want to see this, just go watch Ghostbreakers. It's significantly better.
Did you feel like I mentioned the more sort of more aggressive romance here? Did you notice any sort of more modern 1950s stuff here? I didn't see anything else, but I wanted to see if anything, set off your radar.
So I did notice kind of the slightly increased like sexuality on the boat. There was a scene where he was walking her back to her room, and in like a modern movie he would have, I think, been invited in or something. But in this one they kiss again. But it was noticeable that there is a little bit more forward sexuality in this one.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
we have the dancer at the beginning who kissed the waiter, who was then summoned to the gangster for kissing her. She then kisses Dean Martin. And then I think she goes to kiss Jerry Lewis too.
I think we've got women are more aggressive, right? They can say what they want here, which is kind of which is culturally new for the movies we've been watching.
Yeah. So okay, yeah, we can give it that. But that's all I'm really going to give this film. I'm sorry to say. Okay, it's time for the scariest part of the episode. It's when producer Brad reveals to us where we are headed next.
Okay, I'm ready.
And it's a change from what our schedule says. Because in researching this one, I stumbled on a movie that came out at the end of 1953.
You're really setting this up to be great,
gosh.
Brad.
And it's our first movie from Mexico.
Oh.
El
Whoa.
Monstruo Resuscitado.
The American title is The Revived Monster.
Yes. Whoa. What is this? I'm going to
Okay, well, this is something new.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a really kind of surreal, grotesque movie poster here.
Yeah.
With a very deformed-looking Frankenstein-ish
He looks like the
head.
Elephant Man.
Yeah. And some skulls and other creepy imagery and a mesmerized-looking woman. I don't know if she is like controlling the monster or has been hypnotized by it. And then a Gothic castle in the background.
I find this poster, and then the El Monstruo Resuscitado is in this sort of spiky red font with yellow outlining. I find this poster intriguing, Andy. How do you feel about it?
Yes. What is that underneath the title? It says like Dr. Crimen?
Dr. Crimen? I don't know.
Is that part of the title?
Yeah, it's all in Spanish, and it doesn't say anything about what the movie's about. We're just sort of guessing from the pictures.
Okay. Well, this will be something new for us. Will this be our first non-English film? Oh, no. Well, J'accuse if you had
French. Yeah.
Title cards. But since then, all in English.
How did you find this film, Producer Brad?
When I was looking at the horror films from 1953, this was listed. And I read the description and I said, we should watch it.
You know, I've had on my radar that Santo versus the Zombies movie sort of as our first Mexican movie, and I was very excited. So we've moved up the timetable on sort of international films. So I'm kind of excited.
All right. Well, this should be fun. I mean, can it be worse than an hour and 47 minutes of Jerry Lewis screaming?
I mean, the sad truth is it could be, but at least this one will be maybe surprising and something we haven't seen before. How about that?
Right. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next episode. And please remember to rate us in your podcast app of choice. It really helps us out. You've been listening to Zombie Strains. We'll be back next episode to talk about another zombie movie. If you enjoyed our podcast, please take a moment to rate us in your podcast app of choice. Tell a friend. Follow us on Instagram at Zombie Strains. All of this helps like-minded people find the show. See you next time.